Yeah, and it's getting nicer now. Finally, the sun is back. It's getting warmer. I was just getting tired of the winter and the cold.
It's what keeps us going is hope that things will change.
Yeah. Well, for 2 years, we almost lost all hope, you know?
Yes, yes. But many of us push back,
Yeah.
and we have it back. We have hope back, which is a good, and music, which is great.
Yeah, I think most importantly, we have music and live music back, which is something that I missed quite a lot. And, I was for you, these 2 years of pandemic, not being able to tour. Obviously last year there was already some shows you guys played, but that was those 2 years, for you personally.
Well, I mean, it sucked, and you don't realize it sucks, until it starts accumulating. I mean, if it's a month, it's not a big deal. Oh, if it's 6 months, no big deal. Oh, if it's a year, I think it's no big deal. It's a year and a half. This. So I think it accumulates to that feeling of negativity. And I remember a friend, Martin from Switzerland, wanted an interview in the pandemic, and it was about 2 years in. And I said, okay. I said, why do you even want to talk to me? I don't even have anything to say. And he said, I want to know what the worst time in Overkill is. I said, right now. Now this sucks. No music, no tours. But that being said, I had the demo for Scorched. So I always had a place to go that seemed normal, even though things were abnormal or depressive. So
Yeah.
it was for me. I had a positive outlet during the pandemic.
Yeah. And was it difficult to, when you're writing lyrics, to abstract from what's going on and not write about it?
Well, it sneaks in. I mean, lyrics are always to some degree. I know I write very abstractly. I don't write, the sky is blue and the grass is green. I write abstractly, but I think the negativity it just crept in, through the head, through the eyes, through the heart, all that feeling. And so I think it was hard to avoid at first, but I recognized it. A few months into it, maybe 5 or 6 months into it, I recognized that it was more depressive than let's say a normal Overkill record would be. We've always had a dark feel at times, but I think there's always a really positive energy to Overkill, and that energy wasn't shining through lyrically. So that's why it was. For instance, I redid it after that, and I redid it again, and just said, I think after you accept the situation, but it starts becoming longer and longer, and your attitude and your heart start going like so, but eventually start pushing back, and here you come again. so so when I was up here, that's the lyrics we got for the record.
Yeah, that's good. And is there like, does it happen to have writer's block? When you don't want to be influenced by some negative things, you don't want them to have an influence in what you do. Do you have writer's block with that?
I suppose I can. It's not something for me. I don't think of myself as necessarily a writer or an artist. I think of myself more as a craftsman or a mechanic. Someone who can make the motorcycle go faster, or someone who can make the car sound better, or not that I can, but I think of myself that, or someone who makes beautiful tables, or fine furniture, or something like so. It's not. I don't have an inside art that is screaming to get out of me. I have a love of what my craft is. So I think I have writer's block a lot less. I can always get something out. It may not be exactly what I want, but I don't sit there and say I'm stuck. I'm totally stuck, because I can just scribble things, and melodies, and sing those melodies, and I sing all day. So I don't really have a block. It's just a matter of what the outcome might be, whether it be negative or positive.
Yeah. And when I was listening to the record, one of the things and the vibe that I got, it was classic heavy metal. I got an energy that brought me back to the 80s with heavy metal bands, not necessarily trash bands, but the classic heavy metal, more epic kind of a sounding. Going Home and Scorched, they have that classic vibe. Did you feel that as well on the album?
It was one of the positive things about the pandemic, and it was it was March 2020, and we were on the road. So it's 3 years ago this month, right?
Yeah.
So 3 years ago this month, and it started warming up. Like we just started the conversation, and before I know it, I'm outside on my patio on my deck, and I'm cooking steaks with my shirt off, and I'm drinking beer, and I'm singing classic heavy metal to some of the stuff on the demo, but shit that's been done before. I'm singing Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath to the introduction of Won't Be Coming Back, something like this. So I knew it was in there because of where my head was going, to the riffs and to the introductions and to the progressions. I don't think it's all that. I think it's a blend, which is even cooler, because in as much as it goes back to heavy metal, there's also some of the heaviest, more progressive shit we've ever done when it comes to thrash. And twist. If you put Going Home next to Twist of the Wick, sometimes I can't believe they're on the same record.
Yeah.
Is what I'm. Even though there's a kind of a heavy metal chorus in that, but the music is just off the fucking hook with close to blast beats.
Yeah.
So the eclectic vibe of the whole record is really kind of cool, I think, to be able to show all the influence that we've had since we were kids, even back to classic hard rock.
Yeah. There's a lot of great melodies on this record. When we listen to it, it's probably something we don't associate with Overkill, because, when you think Overkill, it's like, headbang and, just trash. But on this record, it's like a sing-along almost that we get in some of the songs, which wouldn't be like the classic Overkill, but at the same time, it's still Overkill.
It's kind of cool though, and this is for sure a result of the pandemic. If you take it in parts, the demo the riff is first, the demo is second, the pandemic is third. And now the creation of the record happens during the pandemic. And I had all this time to have a beer out my deck, to make a steak and sing along with this record. And it just became more and more melodic and more heavy metal. And I thought that even with the energy of the riffs, coupling it with kind of a lyrical and melodic heavy metal vibe, only made the record stronger. It doesn't feel like a throwback. It feels like sure, it's an influence, but there's a fresh coat of paint on the face. It's a fresh coat of paint on the building. So I'm really happy with the outcome. That it's not like, oh, this is not heavy enough or thrashy enough. I'm like, hey, this is a good melody. Yeah. This is shit that people are going to sing at a show, not neglect.
Yeah, and I still think he has the Overkill, trademarks throughout the records. Obviously our voice is, one of the trademarks. Diddy's bass, is pretty much spot on throughout the record. So, I think for me, what surprises me, it's after like almost 40 years that you guys have, you still make amazing fucking records. And when you probably could be like Kiss, just tour on past songs, probably people would be happy, but you guys still make a point in making records, and not just records, great records.
Well, I think we have from the beginning, we never had mass popularity. We had, let me just stop. My niece, when she was in high school, had a project to do, and she had to interview all of the family members, the adults, to ask about their professions. And she went through my brother, who was an attorney, and her mom, who's a nurse, and my sister is a therapist. Then she comes to me, and she goes, "What do you do? I know you sing, and I know you tour. I said, this is what I do. I said, I alienate myself to the masses, but I endear myself to a small minority. So, and I said, and that's what will keep me around for a long time. And that's what I think about us, is that we've always had that principle that we play for people that are very much like us, that have the same love of this type of music. It has nothing to do with mass popularity. It has to do with the principle of doing it for the right reasons. And if you're still doing it for the right reasons, almost 40 years later, you're going to make good records because your principle is the first thing, not, oh, we're a novelty act. We're going to play the old songs and some people will come. Well, that's the fucking end. It might be a nice end, but it's still the end. So I'm happy to report that with the record Scorched, it's not the end.
It's still, from your words, it's still pretty much a motivation for you guys to make music. It's essential to make it in order to carry on, because what would be the point if you'd stop making music?
There's you probably know of him, Ed Trunk. He's a DJ in the States. He was on a Sirius XM channel. He's done a lot of things. He's really a spokesperson. He's a great friend of ours. He's always been a friend, and he actually worked for Megaforce Records back in the day. He was our A&R guy. And I remember he had an interview with Dee. I mean, he and Dee go to football games together. It's not like, they're that close of friends. And he said to him, on the radio, he goes, is it better to be in a band like Overkill, where it's decade after decade after decade of doing the same shit? Or is it better to be in a band like Twisted Sister, where you have two great records and you blow the whole world up? And Dee goes with a straight face. He goes, oh, Overkill. He goes, why? He goes, because I have way too many riffs in my head.
Well, it's true. It still does. And it shows on the record. I think it's, I admire, that's why probably you guys lasted so long. As you were saying, I think you guys stayed true to what you believe, and you stayed on that path. And I don't think you guys were repetitive by any means. I think you guys evolved. These records shows exactly that. When you don't think bands can surprise you, they still do. And you guys did it for me with this record, because, I knew what to expect from an Overkill record. I know you guys won't let me down, but it still makes me smile when you guys surprise me. And you listen to a record and you're like, okay, yeah, this is good, but it's better than I expected. It's nice.
It's a great compliment. There's, and I think, again, that goes back to principles. It's, there's like an expression that we use in the dressing room sometimes, and you hear it, we're all getting ready in different places or in the dressing room, and the show's coming, and one guy's dressed and one guy comes in, and I always hear this one guy comes in, he takes his coat off and he goes, oh, time to go to work. And I think that's one of the reasons that for us, another reason that it stays around this long, is that we enjoy the work. It's not a hard thing to do if you're enjoying it. It's not, it feels successful on a huge level. You mentioned Kiss before. Obviously, it's nowhere near Kiss, but somewhere inside, I have many of the same satisfactions that they have for being able to represent themselves their way for this many years.
Yeah. And, obviously, during the pandemic, you guys had to record separately, which was, I think, a first for Overkill. How was that? You said for you was beneficial because you had the time to think, to work on the lyrics, to work on the melodies. But how was this process of recording separately? Because normally bands, like old school bands, they still prefer to be together in the studio, in the jamming room, still working on it. But, the result is fantastic on Scorched. So I don't think it was a bad experience.
I've been given the same answer in the interviews, but I'm going to give a little bit different of an answer right now. And it worked out because there was less there was less influence from the outside. And I mean the band members. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but this is the first time we've had it. I mean, it's great to write a record with people. And of course, I would bounce stuff off of Dee or send it to Dave, who's like, he's like my melody man. He'll mess around with my melody and then turn it into, a counter melody on his guitar. I'll talk to Jason, but it wasn't like an everyday process. And it wasn't like we were physically in the same room with each other having a beer and a pizza, that kind of a thing. So I think it left it up to the individual to excel in his area, to make it as the best that he could, and then bring it all together. And then when we brought it all together, we started talking about it, or much of it together, we started talking about. And it gave us the opportunity to make the right adjustments. So I think that just the mixing up the entire process that was normal for me for almost a 40-year period, or since 1985, had good results, because it was just like, okay, let's get this done. And I think it showed that after 38 years, there's some experienced songwriters, in this band, and that they could get the job done. And once they started understanding each other through that remote recording, the results speak for themselves. I mean, I'm very happy with when I press play on this and I hear the beginning of that guitar solo in Scorched, that intro. It reminds me that I'm going back somewhere to classic heavy metal, to the 80s.
Yeah.
But very soon after that, I realize I'm in the current day. I'm listening to the 80s in the current day, which is the cool thing about it, to be in two places at once. I don't know if that would have happened if we had all of the influence from each other all of the time.
Yeah. So it was like you guys work on a trust basis, like I trust that you will do your best, and I won't tell you exactly what to do. I will trust in exactly what you're going to do. Was a bit more like that this time around, instead of annoying someone and just like going, no, you play like, change that a bit.
Yeah, I think that that's just time and relationship too. I mean, you might think of Dee and I being together since, the early 80s, or 80, 81. But I mean, Dave Linska's been here since, 24 years now. It's not like, he's been here twice the length of a normal band already.
Yeah.
Doug Taylor's been here for how many years? And 20. Jason Bittner, I knew when he was a teenager. I was in my 20s. Jason was like a teenager hanging around the shows, with drumsticks. So, I mean, there's a relationship here that goes for a long period of time. And I always know that to say maturity when it comes to heavy metal or rock and roll is kind of like, that's kind of the bad word, but there's maturity all over this record. It just shows that we have experience. And that's where this record succeeded, was the fact that we could do our best, even remotely.
Yeah.
And then bounce it off the other guy who says, that's fucking great, but I would do this. And you go, oh, instead of fucking the whole thing up, it's just a little adjustment as opposed to a total teardown.
Yeah. Would you consider, working like that for the next record, give the space and everybody just, do their ideas at home?
I don't know. I mean, I think I would go back to, at least at minimum, doing the drum tracks with everybody. I mean, I think that's kind of important when you hear the drums go down, especially with someone like Jason, because he can also be writing right on the part, where he's like, oh, I have a better idea. He's one of those kind of cats. And I like that. I like being part of that, because it just makes you feel like you're in it at the beginning. If you're in it at the beginning with your hands on it, it's tangible. You feel like it exists. It's not a thought or an energy. It's beyond that. It's a physical presence. And so at minimum, I would want to do the drums. And, we've worked remotely in the past, but it's the basics that go down, whether Dave and Dee are doing the guitar tracks together and the bass tracks, and everybody there for Jason, or Ron Lipnicki prior to Jason. I think that's kind of important, because, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's familiar to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And for this record, you guys got Colin Richardson to mix the record. And I think he does a great job as well. What was the reason to go to Colin to work for this record?
Well, trust, and we wanted something. We thought we were really close on the last records to what we wanted to sound like, but we think that Colin has done some of the best work for us in the past, whether it be, 97's Underground and Below or the Killbox record. Listen, I mean, the Killbox record is one of the best sounding things we've ever done up until that point. Maybe the Horoscope record was probably better sounding. Maybe Years of Decay was might be better sounding, but Killbox in the modern era for us was one of the best sounding records, and that trust all goes to Colin. And he was the one who was behind the board right from the first note. So we thought in our heads as it was developing that somewhere here we're going home. That this whole thing is about going home, and we're going to go back to where we feel the most comfortable. And it started showing up in the riffs. It started showing up in the demos. We already had Colin on board. So if we're going home, you go back to somewhere that you're most comfortable. Yeah. And that was with Colin. So when he was mixing the record, I mentioned it before about that guitar intro, that I kind of felt that there was a throwback vibe on this whole thing. It still had that modern punch. It had that, that drum resonance that was pounding you right in the chest. But it also had a guitar vibe and a bass vibe that came from like the early 90s. Dee Dee's clanking bass is back. The guitar sounds like something reminiscent of maybe not the Horoscope era, but could have been from the Horoscope era. So you take that modern tonality of the drums and you take the older of the string instruments and you put them together. Again, it's like two eras. And I think that's specifically can attribute that to Colin Richardson. Because, I love the mix on this record.
Yeah.
I think it's a score. I think it's like, I'm not going to say it's a 10, but for me, it's a step up from stuff we had done recently.
Yeah. One of the things I realized, it doesn't tire the ears, when you listen to it. And there are some issues with modern production these days because, I don't understand the technicality of things when it comes to sound. But for me, sometimes it's just everything is, so up there compressed and it just after 2 or 3 songs, you just want to take the headphones off and breathe a bit. With this record, it seems like we can listen to it and not get tired. The nuances on the sound, makes it less tiring, so to say, as well.
That's a great pickup on this because that was, when Dee Dee and I were discussing the production going into it, that's almost exactly what we said to him. That we understand that, it has to show a modern flair to it, but it can't be something that where you need to take a break after 3 or 4 songs because it's just too loud to be able to enjoy, that it's mixed too loud, that it has to be able to be played loud, but be able to be that you can go through all 10 songs, in one listen. So that was actually conveyed verbally to Colin. And that's part of that trust because that's more so the kind of records that he's done for us in the past, something that is always listenable from start to finish.
Yeah. Because for me, I like to listen to music not too loud. I mean, when I listen to Motorhead, it has to be loud, but Motorhead are loud anyway, normally. But, and for me, I like to be able to control the volume that I listen to the music. I don't like to put an album and it's already there. And if I try to crank the volume up, like some slight distortion starts to come out from the speakers. So I like an album that I can crank it without distorting my speakers. And I think this album
without distorting your own head.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting old, even though I like
Whoa, easy, I'm sitting right here.
I think I'm old, and no, I'm joking. I do think I say it's like I'm getting wiser, which is different than getting older. Anyway, and the album is coming out, and you guys are doing a small run of European shows. After that tour, summer festivals, what is the plan, after the summer for Overkill?
We're still poking around for like an early summer tour for the US. I mean, it's not, if we can get back out there, we need less lead time in the US than we do in Europe. It's more of a quick ticket buy than needing 6 or 8 months in advance. So we're looking for something at late June, early July, but we better announce soon because we're coming down to a cutoff period there. So a few festivals, and I think we're going to run the whole thing again. Um, Obviously, a second European tour, second US run. Um, there's always specialty shows, or specialty tours, and that would be like a South American run. Get to get to Brazil, get to Chile, Argentina. Um, the Asians have contacted us, Japanese, for a small festival that's over there. We're going to see if all this stuff can be fit in. I mean, there's been so much time off. Everybody's in a position right now where it's like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. If we can get legs out of this to be able to tour at, 3-4 weeks at a pop, short runs for the next year and a half, that would be the perfect plan.
Yeah. Do you feel a change when it comes to touring now because of the pandemic? I mean, there's still, yes, we're going to do an European tour now in May, and they canceled it. They said because of insurances, because of COVID, still because the insurance don't cover, if there is like a member or something gets sick, they won't cover, whatever it was. Do you still feel that it's a bit difficult to tour like for a long period of time without, getting...
I think, things have changed. Obviously, from a personal perspective, obviously, you have to be ready for anything. But on the daily perspective of getting ready for the tour, I try to push as much of that out of my head as I can. That it's been handled prior, that we know we're taking a risk when it comes to this. The logistics are different financially. I mean, could be a tough situation if, just based on regular costs, just the fact of transportation is that much more expensive at this point. And people don't want to go into their pocket and pay for your transportation. They want to pay for the concert ticket, so, I get it. But I'm not going to let it be those logistics be something that have us overthink something as simple as fucking touring. It's becoming complicated behind the scenes. It's not complicated on the stage. The stage is what the stage is.
Yeah.
So I think if I use that as my motivation, all the other stuff I'm not going to say it falls into place, but for sure you figure out ways to work it out. You put good people around you. I have a great tour manager. I have a great booking agent. And she is all over this insurance and taxes and, increased costs and, making everything happen because we still want to present ourselves as Overkill. This is something that, for years, we've not just shown up with an amplifier and everybody with one guitar. We've shown up with drum risers and huge backdrops and, big backlines and light shows. And this is still important to us. So we want to present ourselves at the highest level. And the only way to do that is to go for it, but also surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. Do you think like those big tours, like for 3 months, whatever it was, are a thing of the past? That probably tours are going to be more in blocks, let's say the center of Europe for, a month. Then after a while, you do like Southern Europe, Spain, Portugal, France. Do you think blocks like that will work, better in the future because of costs and all that stuff?
Well, we've been doing that for a long time anyway, because it is more cost effective. We've been doing 3 week to month blocks now for at least a decade. And it works for us that way because to some degree, there's less risk if it falls apart. If it falls apart on a 3-month tour, there's obviously, there's expenses that go all the way to that 3-month period. But if you're doing 3 weeks to a month, you're looking at it, and this is just a little manager thing, just a little less school lesson. But if you're doing it in a consolidated area, you can maximize, for instance, your revenue, but you can minimize your loss if something happens that's unforeseen.
Yeah.
That's something that you don't know. If someone got sick, it's easier to survive, 10 shows of somebody when somebody gets sick at the 10th show and there's only 10 more than surviving, 40 shows after that, where there's, where tickets have to be given back and buses have been paid for down the road and you've signed contracts for 3-month periods.
Yeah. To wrap it up, now that you have like 20 records under your belt, you could pick up a set list from a song from each record. If we are thinking of 20 songs set list, how's it going to be? I mean, it must be fucking difficult for you guys to pick up a set list, especially when you have a new record to promote as well, and you want to play songs from that album. How it's going to be?
It's important for us to play the new songs. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, I know you've seen the band live before. Like you were saying, you go in, you thrash, you have a good time. We've always opened with something off the new record. We never go back and play something that's traditional or maybe at a festival or something. But if we're touring, it's going to be Scorched is what we're opening with. There's going to be The Surgeon on there because it was a single. Wicked Place has got to be in there. We're also learning Twist of the Wick. So it has to be those songs. That's what excites the band itself to go out and play, is that it's the new songs. To some degree, it still feels fucking dangerous after all these years that you're going out to do a new song. It's like, hey, this could suck. People could say you could fail. But that's the motivation of doing the song, is that it's not guaranteed. Somewhere it's probably going to succeed, but it's still a new song, so it becomes exciting, and that's what keeps the band motivated. Now, the rest of it, quite honestly, I really could give a shit. There's so many fucking songs. I like a lot of them. Some of them I hate. It's easier for me to pick the ones I hate because there's less of them. But the rest of it is actually okay for me. So to pick a set list, I know it's going to end with Fuck You. It's going to start with Scorch. It's going to end with Fuck You. Elimination's going to be in there. And Rotten to the Core. The rest of it is wide open.
Well, that's a good backbone anyway to start. And the danger element that you talked about, I think it's something that is missing in some of the new bands. Or I love the danger element in metal. You never know what's going to fucking happen at the show.
Makes it exciting, man, for the band too. Just makes it exciting.
Yeah. All right, Bobby, thank you very much for your time. All the best for Scorch. It's a great record, as I said in the beginning. I think it's probably one of the best that you guys did, and it's surprising after so many years that you guys can surprise us, with the new music that you guys make. So hopefully we'll be able to see you guys back in Portugal soon, and, all the best, and hope to see you soon. All right.
Obrigado.
Obrigado. Thank you very much, Bobby. Thank you.
Bye.